Good morning, everyone. It is Friday morning, and we are getting started on the next couple of days of food prep, preservation, etc. Welcome to our small footprint. So, first thing I'm going to start with today is the roasted tomato, onion, garlic mix that I finished up on last video. So it has been in the fridge overnight and is sat here. I now need to get it pureed up and put in a pot. So I could just puree this and can it, but then you're going to end up with insufficient, wrong head spacing, because when you puree it, you're incorporating air into the product. So by pureeing it in the Thermomix, I'm going to add air, then I'm going to add it to a pot and I'm going to cook it for 15-20 minutes just on a low simmer, and that's going to cook those air bubbles out of it. It's also going to give me the opportunity to have a taste of it and see if I want to add any other flavors to it before I can it up for pizza sauce. So that's where we continued on from now. So this is my 6 quarts of roasted tomato, onion, garlic, and I have my Thermomix here. So let's turn you so you can see. So I have my Thermomix here, which is what I use to do all of these sorts of things. So I'm just going to scoop it in batches into the Thermomix and get it pureed really nice and smooth. Now, I leave the skins on my tomatoes. Once they're roasted, you can pull them off really easily, just like this, because of the way you're roasting. So if you didn't want your skins on your tomatoes, when you roast them, you can just peel the tomatoes off, and you can dehydrate this and then turn it into tomato powder. But there's heaps of fiber and flavor in the skins, and because I have a Thermomix, it is more than strong enough that if I puree it well, the skins end up pureed as well. But also, we're using this as a pizza sauce, not a pasta sauce, so even if there is some little flecks of the rolled up skins in it, it's not going to impact it, because on a pizza you don't notice that. That is why I use canned tomatoes in general for my pasta sauces, though, because they're just so smooth because of the way they've been processed. But when I do it like this, pizza sauce works really well. The skins get pureed up really nice and fine in the Thermomix. So let me grab a scoop, and I'm just going to do this in batches. I don't want to overfill the Thermomix because I want to get it nice and smooth. So to do that, I want to make sure that I'm not overloading the bowl and things aren't getting hitting the blades properly. So I'm just going to sort of 2/3 fill it, which will probably be 3. I think I can normally fit a whole one of the roasting trays in the Thermomix, and I did 4 roasting trays, so maybe it'll be 4 batches. So I'm just going to do that, not quite capacity, and I'm going to find a lid so I don't spray tomato everywhere. I, of course, cannot find a Thermomix lid at the moment, but the product is cold, so there's no risk of burning or anything. So I'm just going to use a lid to keep it enclosed. So I have just done 30 seconds on speed 10, and as you can see, let's see if we can get this tilted at a nice angle. Lovely, smooth sauce. So now we're just going to transfer this into a pot. I did have my really big pot, but I don't think I need the really big pot. It's my middle-sized pot, and maybe we'll just stick with that, because better than dirtying a smaller one and then having to transfer to a bigger one anyway. So yes, all my seeds and skins I leave on. As I said, it's not such a big deal for a pizza sauce, even if there is bits of fleck in it. Now, so I'm just going to keep on going now. I'm using a Holy ladle here too, so that I'm getting solids and some of the liquid, but not all of it, because we want it to be nice and thick. I can add a jar of tomato paste to this as well when I'm cooking it down, which will thicken it right up if I need to. And sometimes I do, because as it using field tomatoes, not paste tomatoes, so there is a fair bit of water in them. So we're just going to repeat the process, and I'll bring you back once I get the pot sorted. All right, so I'm glad I used this pan, obviously. I think I will add a jar of tomato paste to it to thicken it up and enrich the flavor a little bit, because I'm going to use this as pizza sauce. Kavik did walk out and say, "Oh, you're making a tomato soup," and this is how I start my tomato soup, but I do tend to remove the skins if I'm making tomato soup. Whilst there is very minimal skin in it, when you're eating it as a soup, that texture on your tongue can be really unpleasant. So I do normally go through and remove a lot of the skins if I'm turning it into tomato soup. And I could have. I didn't really think about it. I was just thinking about the fact that I've been buying tomato pizza sauce because we haven't had any on the shelf. So What's done is done. This will be pizza sauce. So I'm going to get this on the heat. I'll add that jar of tomato paste to it to help thicken it, and I'll probably simmer it for 30 minutes just to let that tomato paste permeate through. That will bump the acidity up as well too. So that's not a bad thing considering I wasn't measuring my onions and garlic. So I'm going to get that sorted. All right, next thing I'm going to start on is the apples for the dehydrator. Now, ideally, I would do like the zucchini first because we've had meat in it, but we did wash all the stainless steel racks. The entire inside of the dehydrator is stainless steel, so it doesn't hold smell. I've washed the drip tray as well, and the apples really need doing compared to the zucchini, which is still perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do is I've just taken the core out of the apples, and then all I'm going to do is cut them into rings. Cut any bad spots off if need be. Fairly thin rings, but not exceptionally and we're going to dehydrate these at a high temp to get them done because we're still having issues with enough power to run the dehydrator along with everything else. We can, I think my other knife, this one is nowhere near sharp enough. We can run the generator if need be, but we will see how we go. I could cut these in half to the half rings too. That might dehydrate a little bit quicker. Let me grab my different knife. All right, so I've got these rings. Some of them are a bit thicker than others, but I don't think. There we go. All right, so now I've got a couple of bowls here. First up, I've got I'm going to put some lemon juice, just a couple of teaspoons of lemon juice with a drizzle of maple syrup. My hands are not real happy with me after all this tomatoes and everything yesterday. I might have to get Darryl to open this for me. I could probably pierce it and there we go. Managed. All right, so a couple of teaspoons of lemon juice and sort of the same of maple syrup in there. And that's going to stop the apples from browning, but also give it just that little, the maple syrup's a bit of a more viscous texture. And then I only had shredded coconut, not desiccated, so I've just ground a little bit of shredded coconut up in the Thermomix to make it a bit of a small pieces. So then I've got my trays, and all I'm going to do is, you're not really in the greatest position to see what I'm doing, are you? Bit better. All right, I'm going to give them a quick dip in the lemon juice maple and then a quick pat in the coconut, just like that, and place them on the racks and then just get them started. This is a favoured snack of the kids. I don't do it very often because I haven't had a dehydrator in a while, but because Bench Foods have gifted me this one, we're going to be making lots of effort to get use out of it and figuring out the power requirements to make sure we can. Biggest problem at the moment is that as it comes into winter, the sun sets earlier, but we still shower and stuff at much the same time. So we end up with a bit of an issue with lack of power and having to run the generator because we're showering after the sunset, which means that we're putting more demand on the battery system rather than the sun coming in. As the winter gets a bit colder, we do tend to shower a bit earlier, but at the moment it's only 3 degrees first thing in the morning, but it's still plenty warm enough of an evening to just go along as normal. We haven't even started the fire yet this year because it's just not cold enough of an evening when we'd be starting the fire to start it. It'd just end up too hot. So we are just plotting for the moment. So it looks like I'll probably get one of these large apples per tray. Some of these pieces will dehydrate quicker than others, and that just gives me the opportunity to try them. Though we know we like this. The tartness of the green apples mixed with that little bit of tart from the lemon plus the little bit of sweet from the maple, and then the inherent just natural sweetness of the coconut as it gets cooked is always tasty. So I'm just going to maneuver things a little bit so that I can get that full apple on this tray. There we go. So full apple on the tray like that, and I'm just going to stick in the dehydrator and I'm just going to repeat the process. I'm onto the last rack, so I'm just doing the last rack full. Now, one of the things with dehydrate, like when I agree to take on gifts and stuff to share, I always pick things that I'm going to use on a regular basis, because it's pointless otherwise. I'm not going to fake use it once and then have to store it. Now, we had a dehydrator and it broke, and we haven't had one for a long time, so I really look forward to being able to do all this sort of stuff again. But we do need to figure out the power usage, because the whole point is that I want to be able to use it, and I could use it almost every day with things. It is time consuming to do though, so if we can't get the power, we need to get the power worked. We will manage to figure it out, because it does take a lot of time to make these things. Like these apples, I've been doing this for almost an hour just to fill the dehydrator with them, and realistically this is like half a dozen apples, and the kids could, if allowed to, eat it in an hour. So and it's not, there's not a lot of cost savings in this. Like, yes, if I bought dried apple pieces and stuff, then I would be saving money, except that I don't buy dried apple pieces because the kids don't eat it. They like it like this, but they don't like just dried apple. The jerky is a bit different. That's a big cost saving for us. Even though it reduces in size, the cost per kilo of the beef is a whole lot cheaper than buying jerky. If you worked out the ratios appropriately, it wouldn't be as big a saving, because a kilo of meat doesn't end up being a kilo of jerky. So something like this is very time consuming, but not very cost savings, except that, it's product that isn't real great, but I can use apples for other things. But anyway, the kids love these, that's what I'm making, but there's still a work in progress of figuring out exactly the best way to use the dehydrator on our power and everything else. So this is the last tray going into the dehydrator at the moment. So I'm going to clean up so I can get to this pizza sauce, but I do still have this big bowl of these big apples that have some bruising and stuff, and I do have this coconut that now has a bit of lemon, apple and maple in it, so it can't be stored. So what I'll probably do is make an apple crumble or something for dinner, after dinner or afternoon tea. I'm just going to dice these up, cook them off, and then I'll mix some slivered almonds and some more sweetener and stuff in with the coconut and toast that off and serve it like a little crustless apple crumble thing. If I have the power, I'll make some custard to go with it, which will be nice. So I'll do that with those, but I'm going to clean up and get this pasta sauce in jars first. Actually, I need to go inside and finish the video that's going out this morning. So this can I'm going to turn this off from its simmering and let it come down temp a little bit, and then I will come out and sort out that in a minute. All right, so I'm using these salsa jars. They're about 300 mils, 420 gram jars, and I'm going to use these for the pizza sauce, which should be enough for a batch of pizzas, and I have plenty of these jars empty at the moment. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to fill them, and then I'm not sure how many jars I'm going to get out of it. We're only going to water bath these, so I was curious as to get 1, 2, 3, almost 4 ladles full, which should be fine for up to the 8 pizzas that we normally make in a batch. Can always open 2 jars if we need to, but it should be fine, and that's headspace is adequate there as well. It only needs like a 1/2 inch headspace, because we're just water bath canning it. So I'm just going to get as many jars as I can filled. I am going to use one of my new jugs to make my life a bit easier, and what I do is, if you put the jars, I might take this off the edge of the board. It's start stacking the jars here. And if you pour from the jug, I don't think you can see what I'm doing. If you pour from the jug with the back of it over the pot, then you're not spilling it anywhere. And I'll probably find that one of these jugs is around about a jar full. Yeah. So that way I can just line them up beside the pot. Any drippages goes back into the pot, and we do a scant jug full in each. I might have to take a little bit off the top of that actually, but close to a jug full in each one. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to find packing stick, and I'm just going to keep filling jars, just like these ones. So that it's a lovely colour. It's nice and thick. It's going to be really tasty, I reckon. Alright, so we got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 19 jars out of that. So that's pretty cool. That means 19 serves of pizza. So I've given them all a little bit of a jiggle to just settle them a little bit, assess the headspace and things like that. Debubble, though we got most of that air out because we did the boil. So I'm just going to have a look at that, and we might take a tiny bit off the top, a couple of them, and just redistribute in those. So that looks good. So now I've got 82 ml lug lids. So all I'm going to do is clean the rim of each jar and then lug lid on really nice and firm. So I don't have a lot of space here, so we're just going to do it one by one. Clean the thread on the jar, give the new lid a quick vinegar wash as well, on nice and firm, and put it aside. Now I could do this in a couple of layers in the canner, or I can do it in the steam canner, a few different loads. Both of it ends up taking much the same time. Like the steam canner is heaps quicker, but it will take me multiple loads. Though I think I mentioned last time, I wonder if the rack would fit in the steam canner, because then I could do these jars too high in the steam canner probably. And then it would only be 2 batches, because I think I can fit 7, maybe only 6. But still, it would be 2 batches, so I might give that a go. So I'm just going to get all these cleaned up and nice clean lids on them. These are, as I said, brand new lug lids, 82 ml for the salsa jars. And I'll finish getting these cleaned up and then I'll pull the canner out. Now, just a note that I didn't end up adding any more acidification to these jars. I'm comfortable with the ratios. So we've ended up with 19 jars. Each jar holds about 1.5 cups. So we're looking at 27, 28 cups of, I need a bit more vinegar, 27, 28 cups of tomato product to the 4 onions and a dozen garlic cloves that I put in there. Plus I also did a whole 500 gram jar of tomato paste, which is also bumping the acidity there, and I'm comfortable with that. That's enough for me to be happy to water bath can these, but it's going to be personal preference. There is the new sort of like guidelines on canning tomatoes is that you're supposed to acidify them even if they're straight tomatoes, and it's to do with the fact that you just don't know how acidic your tomatoes are these days, because people breed them to be less acidic because people prefer sweeter tomatoes. So it just depends on I would say your kitchen, your rules as to how closely you choose to follow those guidelines. But I'm giving you the disclaimer here that I did not acidify these, and by the regulations on canning, the American regulations, I probably should have added a teaspoon of lemon juice or 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid to each of these jars to classify them as safe. But I'm okay with these Can you grab me 2 more lids out of the box just there, please? I also didn't sterilize my jars because you don't have to if you're canning for over 10 minutes. And at my altitude and the fact that these are bigger than half pint, smaller than a pint, they will be canned for plenty of time. So let's test out the theory as to whether I can get too high in this. So I've got this on the water and it's cold at the moment. I'm bringing the water up to warm because the jars are warm. So we want the water the same temperature. I have another canning rack here. So the theory is that I should be able to put a layer in and another layer in and get the lid on. We'll see how we go. Just waiting for this to get a little bit warmer. Just going to warm the metal up as well because the rack, we want the rack warm as well as the water so that we're not putting the jars on anything cold. So everything's getting warm. So we're going to see how many. So it looks like 7. And then if I put the lid maybe that way. As long as I'm only left with 7 to do another batch. So that would leave me with 7. And that goes on. So look at that, handy. So steam canner, 2 layers. You can have 2 layers because nothing's submerged anyway. And so we've got that on. Now I'm just going to turn it down a little bit so it doesn't come up to temperature so fast. There is a dial on the top and it has a light green, a mid green and a dark green depending on your altitude. Because we're under 1,000 feet, I need to get it into the dark green zone over 1,000 feet, but under 3,000 feet. I need to get it to the dark green. So we're going to let it get up to temperature and then we'll start the timer. I actually changed my mind. Because tomatoes take 40 minutes to can, because we're between 1,000 and 3,000 feet and we've got pint size equivalent, I'm going to do them in the buffalo because I'll be able to do all 3 layers. If it was a jam or something, the steam canner in multiple loads would be a better idea because you're only talking 10-15 minute canning times. But because I am doing it for 40 minutes, it makes much more sense to do it in one load. The other thing is too that the maximum steam canning time in that steam canner is 40 minutes and it's pushing the liquid a little bit. So I'm going to top this one up and do this one instead. I've got more water here, and because the base of this pot is wider, that rack's nice and tall because it's the steam canning pot, but it's not coming over the level of the jars. Not that that's an issue, it can come up over the level of the jars, but it works well like this. So I'm going to stick the bottom layer back in with the 7 jars. We've got these, not that you can see what I'm doing anyway because I haven't got you located in the right spot, but pizza racks work well in this one as well because it's nice and wide. And then we'll put the last 5 on top. So we've got all 19 jars in the one load that way. And then all I do is I put the lid on and we steam can it the same as in the steam canner. We want a steady stream of steam. Once it's spouting a steady stream of steam, we can start our timer. All right, we've had the valve up and the steady stream of steam for 40 minutes, so we're turning that off, letting that come back down to temperature, and then I'll get the jars out. I'm doing some computer work at the moment, so I don't know what I'm going to do next, but that's it for the moment. I'll show you when I pull them out. It is getting late. It is already like 5:30 and I've only just come back into the kitchen because we have someone here collecting some roosters and they're trying to take a tree down for us, so it wasn't planned. So I asked the kids what they wanted for dinner, and I've got the chicken left over from last night, so I'm going to do a real quick risotto for them, a baked risotto that I normally do. So I've got my cast iron pot. I'm just going to grab some stock. So I've got a litre of homemade stock here, and then I'll add some water as well. This was in the freezer and pulled it out. So I'll probably do a third one, so 3 litres. I'm just going to use, instead of dicing up some onion, I'm just going to use some garlic powder and some onion powder in there. Onion powder, where is my onion powder? Actually, I've got some onion flakes. So we got about 3 litres of water, generous amount of onion flakes and garlic powder in that stock, and I normally would add some Vegeta. That stock's pretty strong. I still might add a teaspoon, maybe 2 teaspoons worth, just to add that salt. Now I'm going to bring this up to the boil on the stove top and preheat my oven at the same time. All right, so the oven's on and that's preheating. I do need to cut up the chicken, which is still, even today, pretty solid. But so I'm going to cut it up, and we're just going to I'm just going to season it and put it back in this bag to finish defrosting. And I will just fry it off to mix through the risotto. So I won't cook it in the risotto. So lighting in here of an evening is not great. It's the other thing that we need to fix eventually. So I'm just going to put some garlic and probably just a bit of the Vegeta because I don't have any pepper cracked at the moment. A little bit of soy. And I'm just gonna leave this, and once the risotto's in the oven, I'll fry it off, but there's no hurry on that. So that's just ready to go. Now, I was going to do that apple crumble, but I haven't. The other thing was the dehydrated apples done, and so is the pizza. Limes?
Yeah, underneath your lime tree.
Huh, really?
Yeah.
Apparently, I haven't been out to the fruit trees lately. Apparently, we have some limes on our lime tree, just little tiny ones, but that's pretty neat.
They were
so,
on the floor.
Sonnet said they'd fallen off, so they must be ripe, but that's pretty neat. All right, what else am I doing? I haven't turned this pot on. There's the lighter for the pot. We've got that pole is creating that significant shadowing. Let me see if I can move myself around enough to get away from it. Now the camera's shadowing. Can't win, I tell you. I don't know. We'll deal with what we've got. So this is what the apple looks like. Now, I did turn the temperature up just a little bit because we were having issues with power. I wanted to get it done quicker. And what it's done is it's actually cooked some of the pieces at the back. They've browned up. So rather than just dehydrated, it's like they've been roasted. So some of the bits at the front are still bendy, but some of the bits at the back are snappable. So we've got a variety of different textures here. But it will all get eaten, and the kids love it regardless. So probably because I put that temperature up, some of the trays are quite well done, but definitely have uneven. So I probably should have rotated the trays, pulled them out, and when I turned the temperature up, pulled them out and then turned them the other way as well, to get a bit more even sort of a drying. So I'm still bringing the stock up to the boil. got all the pizza sauce to come out. So all of the jars, pizza sauce, all sealed up. Hey everyone, it is Saturday afternoon and I haven't filmed anything yet. It's been a busy morning. We've been reorganising chickens because we're getting a hay delivery tomorrow, which I'll show you in my chat video, and we got a tree taken down this morning that will be our firewood. The kids did bake a cake and I cooked lunch and stuff as well, and have been eating through. So we ended up with 2 jars of the apple. This is all that's left of the apple, which is one of those things about making it and the time required, and then the juggle of the power and everything else, and how quickly it gets eaten. It's one of those things that, you know, it just gets devoured so quickly that sometimes it feels like a waste almost, all that effort and time. It's not, I know. And I got crap last time I said something about wasting things on the kids. So for those who don't watch me all the time, that is sarcasm. I spend a lot of time making a lot of things for the kids that feel kind of pointless. So dinner tonight's going to be leftovers. There's leftover risotto from last night, and I'm just going to grill up some broccoli and cauliflower, zucchini and stuff to go with it. But I do still have these apples here that need something done with them, and I didn't stick them back in the fridge because I stuck the new ones back in the fridge, so they definitely need using. These red ones are a little bit floury. The green ones are still okay though, but the red ones are a little bit floury. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to dice them up and throw them in this pot. Now, I have a recipe on my website which is like a caramel self-saucing apple caramel pudding, which I normally do in this pot, but I'm not going to do it today, even though that would be ideal to use the apples up, because I have all that excess coconut. So I want to make like an apple crumble rather than the self-saucing pudding. Also, the kids have chocolate cake as well that they made today, so it's not like they really need anything more. But if I do this, whilst apple is not keto at all because it still has carbs, I am comfortable eating fruit because even though it's got carbs, I'm leaving skin on, it's got plenty of fiber, and I'm just comfortable with it. So I'm going to cook up a creme anglaise or a Russian custard or something, an egg-based custard with sweetener, so a keto style custard to have with this. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to dice up some apples nice and small and spread them out in this pan, and then I will add some lemon juice and a little bit of sugar to the apples, maybe a little bit of cinnamon, and put all the crumble on top. So nice and simple. So I'll bring you back once I get all these apples cut up. Alright, so I've got this full of apples. I'm going to do about 1/4 cup, probably a bit less than that, maybe 1/8 cup of sweetener, a little bit of cinnamon, a tiny drizzle of molasses to give it that brown sugar-esque flavour, and a couple of tablespoons of lemon juice. 1, 2. Now, if I don't add some sort of a starch, like a flour or a cornstarch or something, it's not going to thicken up like a sauce, but I'm not really that concerned. I'd prefer to just leave the carbs out so Darryl's comfortable eating it than do that. He's not truly who this is aimed at, because he's not really a desserts person and not really a hot fruit person either. It's more for the kids, but they're not going to care that it doesn't thicken up either. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I reckon that's going to be fine. And they will cook down and make their own juices. But yes, if you have a starch or something in there, like, I don't know, a tablespoon of flour or a tablespoon of cornstarch or something, mix that through. When the juices turn into that sauce, it'll thicken up because of the starch in there. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up a topping. This bowl is a bit of overkill, but it looks like the kids have used most of my bowls today, so it is what it is. So I've got the leftover coconut. Some of it's toasted from the dehydrator and some of it's just got that little bit of lemon juice and maple on it. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to add a little bit extra sweetener to it. Again, probably another 1/8 of a cup. And then I'm going to add some almond meal, we'll say a cup. This is probably about 1/3 of a cup, this label. So we'll say a cup of almond meal. And then I'm going to grab some slivered almonds for texture as well. So I've got some slivered almonds as well, just to add texture. And all I'm going to do is mix this up. Like that. And then I'm going to add a bit of cinnamon and baking powder. Some, what did I say? Cinnamon and a little bit of baking powder. And then we're going to add some ghee. Just a couple of good scoops, probably 3/4 of a cup maybe of ghee, just like that. And we're just going to mix that through so it's got a bit of a crumble texture. And then I'm just going to cover the whole top with the crumble and throw it in the oven. It'll take 40-45 minutes to cook, so it'll be ready after dinner. So just like that. Alright, I got all my veggies cooked started, so I'm going to start cooking them off. I'm going to get the risotto and chicken into a pan as well. I'm going to use the leftover bit of coconut cream that we've got here in the risotto to make that a bit creamy for tonight, so it's just slightly different to last night's. But then I'm going to open a new tin for the creme anglaise as well. So I've got some eggs here. We've got some pretty, I don't know if you can see the colours at the moment. We've got some really pretty coloured eggs coming in at the moment. And so I'm going to get some egg yolks for those to go in the creme anglaise first, but I might start the pans up and get the veggies going and the risotto, which is underneath the camera at the moment, and then I'll come back to the creme anglaise. So I've just poured the leftover risotto in here. I'm just going to put that little bit of coconut cream. I'm going to put a little bit of water in this, and I'll probably put some nutritional yeast in this just to make it more of like a creamy, cheesy risotto for tonight. And that bit of liquid will stop it from burning before it heats through. And we'll just put a generous sprinkle of nutritional yeast to give it that cheesy flavour. And then I'm just going to put it on the stove on low. And then I've just got a cast iron pan going. I'm just going to put a big ghee on it and pour all these veggies in with a sprinkle of salt. I'm going to separate the eggs. And we'll put 6 egg yolks into the Thermomix. Interesting thing about anyone who's got chickens or has interest in chickens probably knows, but anyone who doesn't, I always found an interesting fact. When you've got, when you breed chickens that lay brown eggs, like this sort of a dark brown, we have some that are a bit darker than this as well. It's actually a bloom on the outside of it. The eggshells themselves are still just pink, whereas when you've got blue egg layers with the 2 blue genes, which we have aracunas in our pen, they're blue on the inside as well as blue on the outside. I think that's kind of neat. We're breeding in some olive eggers as well this year, so I'll be interested to see if what happens there, whether they're blue with a bloom on them that makes them look green, or what, because I'm not sure on that one. So we've got 6 egg yolks. Let me wash my hands. Then we're just going to add a tin of coconut cream. I really need to decant my goon bags. So a tin of coconut cream, so about 400 grams of coconut cream, about 50 grams of sweetener, and some vanilla bean paste. And then we will just cook it on thickened mode Probably only takes 6 to 8 minutes and it'll be done.